So I am back in the classroom full time this year, and I'm really trying my best to do all those things I said as a tech coach that teachers should be doing. So that means flipped learning, blended learning, student centered learning, self paced, all those education words, student choice and agency. And so, I still struggle with that sometimes too, now that I'm back in the classroom full time and having to do it every day with all different types of lessons. So, here's some things that I have learned. So, first of all, have everything in one place. I don't know about you, but even my middle schoolers are not that great with Google Classroom still. And so, what I have been doing is every day, every link a kid will need is in one place. And I've been using emojis when I'm naming. And I use this finger emoji for every day. Click here, and that's in all caps for today's assignments. So you can see here, I have two. That's just because I have a lot of scaffolds I provide my students. So the students only see one or the other. I've assigned one of them to like 6 students, and the other one is assigned to the rest. So on the student end, they only see one. Now, it does take a little bit of work on my end because before the next class, I'll have to get rid of the emoji and the click here for today's assignments. Typically, I rename it with the date and the focus or the skill of that day. So this one would be renamed 1025 point of view. And then the new lesson would be click here for today's assignments. But having everything in one place has been great. So then let me show you what this first landing slide looks like. So here I try and pack as much in to just one slide so students see it all as well. So like a teacher, teachers love hubs. They love one link that they go to and can get everything. Students too. As much as you can, one slide, don't make it too overwhelming, that students can just click through. Now, I thought that students would just move naturally top to bottom in a slide and complete the assignments in order. I was definitely wrong on that. So then I tried using numbers, and you can see I have 1, 2, 3, and I had to specify if you get to the same number twice, you get to choose which one you want to do. So in this case, we have a this or that. So I love to offer students choice, like I said, and for middle school, especially lower grades in middle school, 2 is oftentimes plenty of choice, especially to get started. So they're not clicking around and wondering what to do. Now, something I have learned that I need to change on this slide in particular is that students' eyes are drawn to the largest objects. And I spelled objects incorrectly. Um, we are 9 weeks into school, and I still have students that are clicking on number 3 first. I thought, okay, it's at the bottom. That's good. Nope. Okay, it's number 3. Now we're good. Nope. Students' eyes are drawn to this because the font is the largest, the boxes are the largest, and I also have to say the colors are the most dynamic, right? So make sure that if you are doing this for the first time, my suggestion is keep that in mind, is that my students and maybe your middle school students their eyes may go to the first thing and just click there and not realize their numbers, or there's like a sequence of what students need to complete. Now, for this case, the number 1 is the almost there. These are students that were struggling on a previous skill that we need to go back to because we haven't gotten mastery on it yet. Sometimes I don't always put the number 1 there, but every student that got this particular slide needed to hit this number 1, and so it was numbered. Other times I might put like an emoji of 2 people talking, which would symbolize that we're going to do a small group with that, and then I would pull those students aside. I might have the list of students I need for that up on my board, so students can see with the matching or corresponding emoji. Next is an on-pace flipped video. It doesn't always have to be a video. I found for me right now, this is what's working best. We're sticking to it for the most part. In this case, it's on point of view. Students got a guided note sheet, and check for understanding was embedded into that guided notes for them to do. Again, you can offer all kinds of scaffolds or accommodations. My other version of this had filled in notes, so students could just watch the video and then they had their filled in notes linked into their Google Classroom. Now, because point of view, because this particular skill is not new for us, we're going right into a mastery check after the video and the check for understanding practice questions, because uh, this skill was taught last year already. And so this is a review. So for the this or that, I always like to have something that is paper pencil. They both might be, or one I do like in this case using IXL. That's what our division has, because it will check for mastery without me having to take anything in grade. But I always like to have something paper pencil because my middle schoolers oftentimes have a broken Chromebook, no charger, with a dead device, or don't have a device at all. So I always like to have that option because I never want students saying, I don't have my Chromebook or it doesn't work, and that being an excuse to not get some learning done that day. So this is how I've set up my slides. And then I have learned that I really like doing this like self-paced student learning at the beginning of the class. So we start at the beginning class with some kind of success starter. So that is typically whole group. It might be anywhere from a 3-minute thing to as much as a 15 if it's a discussion at the beginning of class. But then I like to go into our student-centered learning activities or our self-paced activities before we do something whole group. I like to like kind of bring it back whole group when I see students are kind of maybe losing some steam. We can bring in another discussion if we need to. We can bring in some kind of activity and some collaboration further into the class. So for this case, we were talking about Halloween coming up, spooky season coming up, the weather's changing, the leaves are falling off the trees. And so I had this story um, that that students read. And then we kind of talked about like what makes a story scary, why isn't this scary, why is it scary, that kind of thing. And we identified it as third person point of view. And then students were able to go and rewrite the story in first person. Now, not everyone after our discussion started this at the same time, because some students were still working on their mastery check, but we had that whole group moment. Now, the click here, that does take us right back to a Google Classroom link. But again, students didn't have to get off the slide deck. This is a second slide of the slide deck to get to the assignment. Everything is here. Even if it takes you to a different Google Classroom assignment, they can still get it from this one slide deck. And then I really wanted to bring in some more creation and creativity into this. And so I thought once we have this spooky story, and students have written from first person, and I'm telling you, some kids took that story and kind of rewrote it in first person. Other kids were like, I can write a better spooky story than this that's actually spooky, and they just ran with their own original ideas. So then I said, okay, what would your spooky story be best as? Would it be best as a podcast? Can you have this? I have 2 students that are going to have a conversation about as though this was a real story. They're going to make us believe, make us sense and feel that their spooky story was real. It could be a graphic novel. Book Creator is great for having students create a graphic novel, or a trailer for a movie for your spooky story. And in our case, our students will probably use Canva for that. There's WeVideo. There's all kinds of different options out there for any of these. So then this also brings in that student agency and choice, and they can show off their spooky story to their classmates. So I would say keep everything in one place. Be mindful that kids' eyes are going to go to the biggest, brightest thing. So when you're numbering, keep that in mind, and always allow for choice. And 2 choices is plenty to get you started.